First question. To compensate for road crown, vehicles have a slightly more positive camber angle on the right front wheel than on the left front wheel. All right, now what is a positive camber angle? Somebody help me with that.
Just tilting to the outside.
Yeah, there you go. Lawrence here.
I got that line.
All right, I'm looking at the front of the vehicle. Which way am I going to go with these? See what? In other words, this is actually. I'm not looking from the top now. I'm looking from the front. Okay, I'm looking. And this is the ground right here, and this is the vehicle right here. All right. So which way am I going with the top of those wheels? Huh? So I'm gonna go here this way then.
What you saying?
You want more negative, right?
That's negative. That's positive camber.
Right. But you need to compensate for it. You need to go negative. So.
Yeah, but if you're gonna compensate for road crown though, vehicles with have a slightly more positive camber on the right front wheel than on the left front wheel. Is that true or is that false? What do you see in your book, Lawrence? Lawrence is going to flip. Okay. Well, what does positive camber do?
It's going to depend. If it's on one wheel, then it's going to pull you that way.
Yeah, if it's leaning that way, imagine yourself leaning a wheel that way and starting it rolling. It's going to roll off in the direction of leaning, ain't it?
Yeah.
All right, on that way. So, but is it going to be on the outer one or the inner one? Which way are you going to put it there?
I think I would rather have mine on.
See what you see in there. Okay. All right, we're going to hold off on that question for a minute. Even though steering axis inclination is not adjustable, and it's not, unless you have a super duper continental frame straightener machine or something, you might be able to jerk some sheet metal around and some anchor points and make that steering axis different. Even though it's not adjustable, it should be checked during the wheel alignment. True or false? True. And we typically check it, don't we? We know when we do our caster sweep and all, we know what our steering axis inclination is, and it gives us that. What is it usually? What have you been seeing for steering axis inclination numbers? 18 degrees. Yeah. I mean, it's a considerable little bit of an angle.
The most I've ever seen is 45.
Huh?
The most I've ever seen is 0.045.
Now, if this was made out of styrofoam, it would be easier for me to do this. But you see that right there? If you've got that rotor straight up and down, notice the angle of these holes going down toward that ball joint at the bottom. See that? See that? How you do it? That's your steering axis inclination right there. From this straight up to this angle right here. That's what you're after. Oh, now I got to put that down before I drop it on my foot. Man, somebody needs to make maybe one of them out of plastic or something. Okay, now then. Well, let me ask you this. If your vehicle drifts to the right at highway speeds, what should you do about that? Drifts to the right at highway speeds. And this is kind of along what we're talking about right here.
Okay, they have positive camber on the left front wheel.
Aha. So you're actually going to have positive camber on the left front wheel. Why? Because that's going to make it try to pull gently toward the crown of the road, and it's going to keep it from falling away from the crown. So positive camber on the left front wheel is the one that's closest to the crown. On a car that's set up that way, though, if you move over into the other lane, like you're driving on an interstate or something, you don't have a little pull.
Yeah.
Right? See what I mean? So, back whenever everybody was always driving on the right side of the road, then that was the way. Now over in England, you do it the other way. You got to think about which side of the road somebody's going to be driving on most of the time. Because over in England, they drive on the other side of the road, and the steering wheel's on the right side of the car and all that kind of stuff. But let's do this. If we were going to, let's say that we're looking for a problem where one drifts to the right at highway speeds, right? All right, so what we're going to do first is we're going to inspect the tires for abnormal wear, and we're going to set the tire pressure to 35 psi. Now, what's interesting to me was, and Brandon was telling me this, and I bet you're probably got an air pressure issue. Yesterday, he pulled a tire off his 2002 Dodge truck, and he broke it down, and he put bead sealer on I guess it was leaking around the bead. So he cleaned all of the rim. I guess you wire brushed that, right? Yeah. And he cleaned it up. He put bead sealer on there and put the tire back on. He said it was pulling to the right before he did all of that. And then when he got done, now it's pulling to the other way. And all he did was take the right front tire off, break it down, put bead sealer on it, put it back. He didn't balance it, and so it's shaking his teeth out and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so what in the Sam Hill's going on there? All he did was break that one tire down, put it back together, and now he's pulling the opposite side way than he was before. Now, if he had moved some tires around, I guess they had tire pull. Maybe. I bet if he checked the air pressure, he's going to find out he's got low air pressure in his left front tire. Probably, because he put the air pressure where it was right in the one that he broke down.
Right. Yeah.
So he had low air pressure in the right front tire, and now he's got low air pressure in the left front tire. Which was a second-rate amateur thing to do without checking all your air pressure. Okay. Is that right, Brennan? All right. You're going to be to make you do a first-rate amateur. Okay. You're inspecting the tires for uneven or abnormal wear if you're drifting, let's say you're drifting to the right. This is something that we're just giving you a little exercise here on, right? You're going to test drive it at 55 miles an hour on the road with a very little crown. The flattest roads you can find, right? You're going to use a stopwatch to determine how long it takes to make a complete lane change. That sound interesting? If it takes 6 seconds or more to change lanes, it ain't a big deal. It ain't worth trying to fix. If it takes 6 seconds or more, and that is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's normal drift. That's just normal drift. All right. If it takes less than 6 seconds to change lanes, then you need to raise it on a hoist and inspect the front suspension to see if it's got any damage. Can you do that? That's one of the things we're always supposed to do, guys. When we do an alignment, we're supposed to be looking at that front suspension. We've got to look at all the worn out, bent parts. We're supposed to be grabbing them wheels and jiggling them this way and that, and seeing if we got any slop or any slack anywhere like that. All right. Now then, we're supposed, if there's any suspension damage, that's got to be fixed first. All right. If there's no suspension damage, we're supposed to swap the front tires from side to side and test drive it again, like we did, before. Like we were talking about, you swap the tires on the front from side to side and see if it pulls the other direction. If it now takes 6 seconds or more to change lanes, and the drift is normal, and then it's okay, you fixed it. If swapping the tires didn't do anything, then it's time to go to the next step, and that's you're going to loosen the 4 subframe mounting bolts if it's a front wheel drive, and the 6 bracket mounting bolts, and on the right side, you're going to put a pry bar between the subframe and the body and shift this right side of the subframe forward. See what I'm saying? The subframe on a front wheel drive car is this big old thing under there that the engine is mounted to, right? You're looking from the bottom, right? You loosen the subframe bolts, and if you're looking at the bottom of the car, and where's your steering wheel going to be? This is going to be the front of the car right there. So where's the steering wheel, guy?
In the front?
In the front? The steering wheel's out here? Oh, okay, so where's the steering wheel? I'm at the bottom of the car. Okay, so the steering wheel is basically going to be right here. Okay, so that's going to be the, wait a minute. This is it. We're going to turn the car over. That's the wrong side. It's not going to be here. It's going to be over here. Right?
What? You said that's the front of the car, right?
This is the front, and we're looking at the bottom. We're looking at the bottom of the car.
Oh, okay.
It's up on the left. All right, so the right side, if we're going to, this is the left side, this is the right side. Okay, then we're going to take a big old pry bar after we've loosened all these bolts. We're going to try to shift that subframe forward a little bit. You got that?
Yeah.
All right, if it's already forward, then you got to use it to shift the left side backwards. You're either going to shift this side back or that side forward, or whatever you can do. You're trying to, well, why are we doing this? Why are we having to fool with the subframe if we're fooling with it, we're doing alignment? Because the lower control arms are hooked to the subframe. Got it?
Oh, okay.
Got it? That's going to affect wheel alignment, the subframe. Somebody's put a motor in this darn thing, and the subframe ain't quite on there right. Now you got it pulling. You have to factor all that in. Look at the bolts and see if they've been out of there. See what I mean? A lot of times you can look at the bolts, and if you've got scratches on there where the bolts have been turned or something like that, you can say, okay. All right, so you're going to torque the subframe mounting bolts back to where they're supposed to be. Usually that's, 60, 70 foot-pounds, whatever it is for the vehicle you're working on. You're going to check the alignment. Left and right caster should, be equal if you've done what you were supposed to here, or more positive on the right side. And a vehicle will pull to the side that has more positive camber into the side that has more negative caster. And we talk about this a little bit. If you've got your numbers on this thing in the green, if they're in the green but they're a little bit over to the negative side for caster and a little bit to the positive side for camber on the same wheel, then it's going to pull toward that wheel.
Oh, okay.
Even if they're in the green, and a lot of people will get confused by that. See, all right. Now let's move on to our next question.
Be positive, right?
Huh? No, yeah, well, actually, if positive camber will make it pull that way, negative caster will make it pull that way. If you got slightly negative caster and slightly positive camber on the same front wheel, it's going to be pulling that way. Even though you say, well, all of my numbers are in the green. But if you look and they're just in the green but sort of drifted toward, you know what I'm saying? They'll be just almost in the red but not quite. That means you got to get them back both where they ought to be. I mean, closer, you know. In other words, you got to go more negative with your camber and more positive with your caster in order to eliminate that pull.
I mean, it was tough doing that back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
It's tough doing it now.
Yeah. You're right.
Anyway, but I'm telling you, you can't be a wussy boy and be a front end man. I mean, it takes some ingenuity, and a lot of times you'll have seized up parts that you got to deal with. Hey, try doing a rear wheel alignment on an Escort. That thing, boy, it's rust city. But you about got the brakes all straightened out. But anyway, so that number 3, incorrect included angle could indicate a suspension or vehicle structural problem. What do you think? Included angle is what? Somebody tell me what included angle is. What is included angle? You remember that first handout I gave you? How many of you guys still got your other handout? You know the handout I gave you, they had the GM, it was a GM front end alignment handout?
Included angle, the camber angle plus the SAI angle.
Here's your SAI angle right here.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, SAI is the angle that's drawn between the ball joints, or you know, the actually steering axis is on this angle right here, and that's measured against center line, right? This is not a center line of the tire, it's just center line. That's dead, that's plumb. Okay, if your camber was out here, then the included angle would be from the center line of the tire to the steering axis. If it's in here, which it could be, it would be from the center line. So the included angle could be either more or less than steering axis inclination. Could it not? And make sure you tell somebody that on your text that you're sending over. That the included angle is could be less or more than steering axis inclination dependent, right? All right. At least that's the way I read it. Okay. So number 3 is actually true. 2 and 4 wheel alignments provide equally accurate results.
So 4-wheel alignment would do better.
By the way, you guys know that Thursday is midterm. And everybody has to have a midterm grade. And
I feel like I'm doing alright, I just need to do like 20.
yeah, we need to make sure that we get let you guys look at your grades and all that and see if
Yeah,
you're in
we do about
midterm grade.
4 to 5 worksheets.
Well, I do
Yeah.
20 worksheets, I'd be
Yeah.
cool.
You shall not surely die.
Yeah.
Okay. Now then.
They say we're going to do midterms.
All right. But anyway, I just wanted to, I wanted to say that before I forgot it, so I'm moving on here. 2 and 4 wheel alignments don't provide equally accurate results. Years ago, people, they had these front end machines that all they do is you look at the front wheels. And that's not worked well because they didn't have any point in looking at the back because they felt like it'd be aight. You know, but all of a sudden it turned out, you know, if the rear axle's a little crooked under there, you don't know what your thrust angle is or anything else, you see. That's a problem. Remember what thrust angle is? Mm-hmm. List, define, explain. Tell me what thrust angle is, somebody. Don't mutter and mumble.
It's angle through the middle, right?
Well, it's based on rear wheel drive. If I've got an axle,
Yeah, you right.
if I got an axle right here that's crooked under the car, and the car is like that, the thrust angle is that.
Exactly.
That's why you see somebody dog tracking. They got this thrust angle. You see them dog tracking cars going down the road? Sometimes, you know, if you just start paying attention, you'll start looking at the wheels and the tires and the thrust angle and all that on these vehicles. You'll see old pickup going down the road like that, like a, you know, crab.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like,
Crap.
Like a dog when they walk
Yeah,
away.
you know, dogs got to
You
go.
gotta hit
Yeah.
and walk
All right, that's what I'm talking about.
the back end ain't lined up with the front end.
Yeah. All right. So, now let's move on here. 4-wheel alignments that require adjustment of all 4 wheels.
True.
Not necessarily.
Four-wheel alignment,
Not necessarily. I mean, typically you're just measuring all 4 wheels. And
We're gonna get it right.
in a lot of cases, but I will tell you this: when you're doing an alignment, you know, the way it always seems to work the best, and the way that I've always been, you know, taught and done, and you do the rear wheels, make darn sure the rear wheels are lined up first before you do anything else, because you're really measured off those, right? So if your rear wheels are in, you know, are lined up like they're supposed to be, then you'll have.
So the thrust angle, you can have it out of line, and the back wheels will be.
If the back wheels are out of line and you set the front ones, you know, a lot of times you're shooting off the back ones with your sensors.
Yeah.
And so you can foul everything up by going that way.
Really, is that the way you're talking, Mr. Richard? That only has to do with solid axle cars, right?
Yeah, solid axle cars can have a thrust line that's screwed up.
Yeah.
You know,
Like
you know,
you
if the
said.
back. But I will tell you, well, now listen to this. Even on an axle, one that's front wheel drive. Listen, guys, if one's front wheel drive and the thrust line is screwed up, it'll still dog track. It's just more common on the ones if one of the spring bolt shears and the axle moves a little bit. You know, you can have it dog tracking, but even on any car, you can have a thrust line that's out. You know, I mean, and typically on the rear wheel, front wheel drive cars, it's got something bent or whatever. You know. So anyway, toe angle is adjusted by changing the length of the tie rod. True or false?
Well, no.
Come on.
Yeah.
Don't play dumb with me. What about it, Daigle? Daigle. Daigle, have you had your bagel this morning? All right. After you complete alignment adjustments, 6 is actually true. After you complete alignment adjustments, you need to center the steering wheel so it's positioned correctly in relationship to the front wheels.
No, that's too late.
Yeah. It's straight to begin with.
Yeah, and it's really odd to me that the answer key would say true on this, because you're supposed to do that before you set the toe.
Yeah.
Unless it's a
it
91 Dodge 4-wheel drive truck. Because they've only got one. You cannot center the steering wheel with your adjustments. It's just got one big long rod tube going to the front. It's got the tie rods threaded in each end of it, and you can basically set your, you can turn that rod and set your toe perfectly, but your steering wheel will be anywhere. And so they got lots of splines on the steering wheel. So, and even in the book, it says after you get it lined up, the last thing you do is pull that nut off, pop the steering wheel off, put it in the middle, stick it back on.
That's about the only one that you know that's like.
Yeah. Now, the only one I know of, the only one I've ever seen. I mean, I'm sure there may be others out there that I don't know about, but the Volkswagen Rabbits that we used to work on, sometimes the only adjustment somebody would be able to see as far as toe was on one side of it, because on one side of it you're supposed to pull the boot back on the rack, and make your adjustment inside the boot on one side. The other one's outside the boot, and you can see it. And so they do it all on one side. And the customer would say, when I back my car out of the driveway, I can't turn it as far as I used to be able to. And it won't turn as sharp. And now it turns real sharp the other way. So everything's out of kilter because he did all of his toe adjustment on one side on that. And it just kind of messes things up, But I mean, you kind of got to understand the cars you're working on, All right. So you center. I mean, that one there, they're wanting true, but I'd say, that's a falsy there. I don't like that because you're supposed to center the steering wheel before you set your toe, and that's one of the most aggravating things in the world. You're supposed to jiggle that steering wheel so to make sure it's not in a bind any kind of a way. Bounce the suspension, make sure it ain't bound up any kind of a way. Center the steering wheel, and then make your adjustments. Then you drive the thing down the road. Sometimes it's a little bit crooked anyway, no matter what you do. But you got to make sure that you haven't bound anything up while you're making your adjustments and all that. Rear-wheel drive vehicles with a fixed rear axle housing assembly may provide adjustment of camber and toe. That is false. You can't do nothing back there. Okay. Yeah. All right, now let's move on to question number 9. We've only got a few more questions left to go. Trying to put some substance in here for you so you guys can have something to chew on, okay? Because Archie's got to get his transmission stabbed back in that Chevrolet truck and drive it out of here today, Archie. All right, when the top of a wheel tilts in, the wheel has what kind of a caster angle? Negative, camber?
Negative camber.
Yeah, when it tilts in, it's actually negative camber. And I got old Lawrence from Memory Bug where you can remember that, didn't
Yeah, I'm remembering it now.
Yeah. When the upper ball joint is behind the lower ball joint, the wheel has... When the upper ball joint is behind the lower ball joint. In other words, if the upper ball joint is farther back...
Positive caster, I think.
The farther you go that way.
That's one of the...
The farther, like if this is the front of the car, What am I doing here? That's the front of the car. If you tilt this back, is that positive caster or negative caster? What is it?
Is that camber? I mean, the camber or caster, you said?
Actually, this is the front of the car.
Oh, okay.
We're actually, it's a
That's
steering axis.
positive caster.
Yeah. Okay, so there, but you gotta make sure you remember that's positive caster angle. If the upper ball joint is behind the lower ball joint, these are your ball joints. Okay. On this drawing, it would be circle joints because that's all I can draw up here is a circle. I can't draw a ball on a flat board. What's up with that? Okay. That would be difficult to do, wouldn't it? All right, now then, what you got here? That's number excessive positive caster. This is number 11. A, requires more steering effort. B, creates low speed shimmy. C, causes snapback. Or D, all of the above.
Not D.
It is D, it's all of the above.
I thought you said back, creating more positive caster would allow it to be easier to turn.
No. Think about it. You actually got confused on your positive and your negative. When you've got a more vertical angle, it's going to be easier to turn. That's why your cars without power steering are going to have a caster angle that's more negative. You got that? Because it's think about it, man. If you got your wheels out like this and you're turning them, it's raising the car up more.
Yeah.
And it makes it snap back. Because when it snaps, it goes back to the lowest place. And the lowest place is dead in the center. If you got one, you can actually turn the wheels with a tape measure by your bumper, and you'll see the car raise up when you turn your wheel.
Yeah, I did it before.
You can watch it, didn't you?
Yeah.
So did you do that because of what I said something in here?
No, I just did it a long time ago.
Well, you rascal. You already been thinking about this stuff. All right, then. Everybody happy with this test? Are you learning a lot here? We got to burn this stuff in. That's what we're trying to do at this time. Steering angle burn in. That's what I ought to call this video, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so you're going to do everything. You got more steering effort. You got low speed shimmy. You got snapback. All of them with more positive caster. Low speed shimmy, it's kind of like, have you ever had a shopping cart with low speed shimmy?
Yeah,
Don't you just love that? Don't you want to push your shopping cart a little way and do a little test drive and then go get another one that does better? You ever think about that? All right. Okay. The distance between the steering axis, this is cool. The distance between the steering axis and the center line of the contact area of a tire tread is called what? I thought I smelled something very uniform in. I said that.
I know the answer to that.
Yeah.
You said contact area on a tire.
Yeah.
Can I say that?
Yeah.
And a contact patch.
Now we call that the scrub radius.
Oh, the scrub radius.
Yeah.
Okay.
You didn't hear the whole question. Is what it was.
I got you.
If you'd have heard the whole question, you'd know.
I'd have got that answer
Yeah.
down straight.
Leave those in there on this.
That's what the car salespeople call it. Contact patch.
Yeah, those rascals. What can you know about a car salesman here? All right, then. That's what car salesmen years ago used to wear plaid coats and white belts and shoes.
Oh, man.
Some of them did. Remember that? Okay. Hey, that's not got nothing against car salesmen. Some of my best friends are car salesmen. But they really are. I like car salesmen. All right. Let me see. The distance between the steering axis and the center line of the contact area of a tire tread is called what? It's also called steering offset. It's both. It's both A and B, steering scrub radius and steering offset. Now think about this. Look what I'm talking about here. Let's draw a picture of that too. Okay, here's your tire, right? All right. Now, you see any specialty tires people put on the cars? And the specialty tires, the rim may be either farther in or make the tire farther in or farther out. That's going to change the scrub radius. Because what you're looking at is the dadgum steering axis inclination being here, if you've got the tire shifted in, or if you've got the tire shifted out, it may be here.
That's what I put.
See how that's going to change the way that... Yeah, the way the tire is turning. This is looking at it from the front. The way the tire is turning scrubbing on the ground, you get steering offset there. Anyway, that's what they're talking about here. Is where that angle is. Where these two lines intersect has got to do with your steering offset / scrub radius. If it intersects up here, if it intersects down there, that's basically what we're talking about there. All right, now then, a specialty tool that can assist you with the centering of the steering wheel is known as a what? As a what? What is it? Is it a centering adjuster? Is it a brake pedal depressor? Is it a steering wheel holder or is it all of the above?
Well, all of them would probably do it.
Oh, please. It's actually a steering wheel holder. That sounds like a kind of a dumb answer, don't it? Steering wheel holder. All right. Okay, now, did we burn in some stuff? We burned in, didn't we? All right, then. That's good. Levi, how nice of you to join us.